Hi, I'm Charisma.
And I'm Cameron.
And welcome to Bruin Table Talk. Today, we will be talking about the intersectionality of being Black and a police officer in America.
With our special guest,
London McBride. London has 15 years of diverse law enforcement experience as a patrol officer, field training officer, lead officer, and detective. London is an instructor and practitioner in equity, diversity, and inclusion in the workplace, procedural justice, and implicit bias. London is regularly involved in community projects and serves on various committees at the UCLA Police Department and within his home community, and is a huge fan of the UCLA women's basketball program.
So, London, how are you doing today?
I am great. How y'all doing?
Pretty good.
Good.
Yep. Okay, so we're gonna jump right into it. So we do know you're a police officer, but what was your life before that? Like, what sports did you play? I know you were a baller, so you had to be good in them. And then, what was your major as well?
So, before policing, I grew up in Carson. So I grew up in the South Bay. Went to Banning High, played football for Banning High. So I used to be a quarterback, and I actually played a little bit of receiver. Ended up going to school in Utah. So I went to Utah State, and I majored in interdisciplinary studies, health and society. So did that. When I left, played a little bit of ball. I got a shot with the Seahawks, didn't pan out, but that's okay. Then I ended up playing with this pro spring league team called the LA Dragons. So did that for a year. Then I was like, I'm cool. Kind of have my fix of football, and then ended up teaching. So I became a PE teacher and a sports coach over in Brentwood. And by that time I had gotten married, and I was like, okay, I need a job. And so I ended up coming to UCLA. And I got to UCLA like 2002, and I worked in physical therapy. So I've done a lot of crazy stuff. Worked in physical therapy, and then helped with this group called the Lift Team. So we used to help reduce the injuries among nurses in the hospital. So I got to do that, and I knew a lot of the police officers that were assigned to the hospital at Reagan, but before that it was like CHS, so it was totally different hospital. And I always wanted to do it, so ended up talking to them, and next thing you know, in 06, I ended up joining, and I've been there 15 years. So it's been cool. I think the biggest reason why I wanted to do it, I just wanted to help my community, because I saw crazy stuff. Carson wasn't as bad, but we still had issues. But I was just trying to figure out how can I give back and help, the kids in my community.
I love that. And just to see your path, it didn't start off with you wanting to be a police officer. You did a bunch of different things, and that kind of led you to becoming a police officer. So That's pretty cool. And just how you want to help your community and things like that. But I know that there's been some challenges being Black and being a police officer. What has been the biggest challenge for you?
Being Black and being a police officer. I think, it's I don't really think people understand it unless you are walking in our skin. Just as soon as I take the uniform off, I'm a Black man driving a car, that, if a police officer wants to pull me over, they'll pull me over, and they don't understand the stress. They don't understand the wave of emotions that come over you when you see these lights, shining in the back. And, I've had people tell me, well, you're not doing anything. I was like, yeah, but still, I've been pulled over. I've been profiled while I was a cop, so it's, you never can escape. You never can escape who you are. The uniform is just a uniform, but I'm still a brother when I take it off.
Yeah, completely hear that. We when we kind of have MTAD talks as a team, we get to kind of share our story. That's kind of the same thing that we say, even though we're UCLA athletes, that uniform has to come off at some point. And then at the end of that day, we're Black women, just Black in America. So we can definitely see how that feels to, like, as soon as you take off a uniform, you kind of lose a sense of protection in a sense, because people don't know who you are. They just see you as generic Black person. So
you hit it on the head, and that's so true. And they don't like it's like, just like you two being athletes, like they just assume that everything is okay in your world, like that you can just, lose your identity, lose your Blackness once that uniform comes on. And that's not the case. It seems like we have this extra weight that's on us all the time. Like we always say, we try to be, do twice as hard. We work twice as hard, or be twice as good to get half the credit. I mean, it feels like we're always trying to do extra to prove ourselves. But, they don't realize that, it's a scary situation, when we're outside of that, that bubble that's protecting us. And we're trying to live our lives day to day as just regular folks.
Yeah. And I know we all understand that when we were little and we first went to school, our mom was like, you got to be perfect, basically.
Perfect. Yeah.
Perfect, because you are a Black person in this society. So even kind of going off of that, so like, how does it feel being a Black police officer with all of these killings by police officers happening at an alarm rate to unarmed Black people? And then, like, does that potentially affect your relationship with coworkers, or even have you ever felt discriminated against within the police force?
Yeah, when all this happened, especially when George Floyd was murdered, like, and a bunch of friends of mine, we became a lot like really vocal about it. And we saw how people that we thought were friends, people that I went to the academy with, distanced themselves from me because we spoke up about it. And I think it's just, me personally, I don't think people really understand the history of policing. We get, police officers go through the academy, we get this kind of watered down version of what policing is, where did it start, and all that kind of stuff. So it looks really, really noble, but they don't know the atrocities that were done at the hands of police officers. And until you're able to face that, you'll never be able to empathize with the communities that you're supposed to serve, not police. So I've had, I guess I call them discussions, they might call them arguments, but with people that are that don't want to understand and wonder why I chose a side. Because in policing, you have this, you all heard of it, thin blue line, all that kind of stuff. Like, okay, that's whatever. But at the end of the day, what's right and what's wrong, and what am I seeing that's happening in our communities? And that's the thing that I don't think, people are trying to really understand, is that this is a reality for us. It might not be a reality for you because you don't live in our world, but this is our reality, and trying to navigate that and trying to deal with those stressors and those traumas. People don't get it. They think we should just get over it. You can't get over stuff like that that's been happening for years. It's hard to just dismiss it. But yeah, being a Black man that's a police officer, I think it gives me an opportunity to try to go back to my folks and just let them know that I'm here. I'm that guy standing in the gap, trying to be the bridge. Does it work? Sometimes, but I'm willing to put forth the effort, to keep building those bridges. But it is, it does kind of drive a wedge between, me and some of my coworkers, because they know what side of the fence I stand on.
Yeah, and you just kind of mentioned you standing almost like a middleman between two communities that mean a lot to you. So what do you think would be something that would help rebuild a relationship between like the Black community and police officers, and like build back trust in a sense?
I think I don't even know if we actually had trust with PD. I think, what I try to push is education. And, before I became like our crime prevention officer or community engagement officer, I used to train new recruits that came out of the academy. And one thing that I tried to make them more mindful of is the reason why they were stopping folks and, making these different contacts. But I would give them the history of policing, the real history of policing, so they could understand like why, certain groups of folks were kind of upset when they were pulled over, when they felt like they were profiled. And once they understood the backstory, once they understood the trauma that people dealt with, especially folks in our community, they got it. They really got it, and they began to empathize with people in their community. And I think that is the way to start, because we really have to start from the beginning. I always say you got to tear the system down and then build it back up in truth. And so I think that's where it starts, and it really comes from us as police officers or peace officers actually listening. Instead of always trying to tell people what to do, we need to learn how to listen. And so I think that's the foundation. The foundation is that respect, and being able to gain that trust, but doing that by listening and really trying to be a part of the community instead of this outside entity kind of hovering over communities.
Gotcha. Yeah. And I think education is just so important. I remember when you came to our team and you talked to the team about your experiences and things like that. And I learned so much, and I'm sure some of my other teammates learned so much. So again, thank you for doing that. And then just like you speaking up about these things, like it's really hard to do that, like especially when there is such a big gap between the two communities. So just like I applaud you for even having the courage to be able to stand up and say things. But on a more like positive note, what is your favorite thing about your job? What's the best part? What do you enjoy the most?
Hanging out with y'all. I love people. Seriously, when I got this spot, I was like, thank you, Lord, because I am a people person. And I always have been, besides playing football and all that stuff. I used to be a youth and young adult pastor. So being around people that's my jam. So I just, I getting to do this and not being in the uniform and just kind of walking around campus and being able to have those cool conversations like with y'all. I think that makes my day. That kind of, I think that makes me feel like I'm actually living in my purpose, because I get to make these cool relationships and see people grow and thrive just like y'all, and I get to be a part of it because I kind of get to walk it out with you. So I think that's probably, to be honest, that's like the best part of my job.
Oh my gosh, I really do love that. And I also love how you've been able to turn your job into your ministry as well, because honestly, there's not a lot of police officers that might be people persons, or especially ones who are coming to community events. Like we see you about at every basketball game. We know you're going to see you at a couple practices each year. And we know you're like really trying to build relations with us at least. And I know you're doing it with so many other students and so many other people as well. So it's really cool that you've been able to combine both your job and your purpose and your ministry and your just faith all together in one for you to like really live out in purpose. So I think that's so dope. That's so cool.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But now we get to the spicy, the fun part of the show. We got a couple fun questions. They'll be like rapid fire. Okay. So first one, what is the craziest call you've ever had to respond to?
Craziest call? Gee. My craziest call? There's been a lot, but I think one of the craziest, I mean, does it have to be like crazy or serious or funny or
it could be whatever
I think, you know what, one of the craziest calls that I had was and I just stumbled on it. It was a baby not breathing. And I was driving, I worked nights because I used to work nights for like 10 years. So I was driving and I saw this car what was it? LeConte. And it was going towards where the old hospital used to be. and they were looking for the ER. And I remember just driving pretty close. So I was about maybe 10 feet away, but still in my car. And this mom, I could see her with her kid in her arms, and the baby was blue. And, at that moment, okay, I got to be the superhero. That's what people think. But the smart thing to do was to just drive them to the ER instead of trying to jump out and do that stuff, do CPR and stuff. So I was like, no, just follow me. So I hit my lights, flipped to you, came back, and then just rushed them into the ER, and the baby survived. So I think that was a cool but scary event. Yeah.
That's cool.
You was a superhero for doing that? What? For doing that?
I was like, I just want to help the baby.
Okay, so what are you listening to right now? Like what artist, what song, or just who's your favorite artist?
Oh my goodness. So let's see. I'm an old school cat. So I'm still listening to old school R&B. I listen to Mint Condition. I'm listening to still my man Brian McKnight music, PJ Morton. Then of course I still have like my gospel stuff. So Maverick City, listening to that. Gyra's my jam. That's my driving to work, crying in the car. But then Kirk Franklin's Imagine Me. I think that is that's the one that I listen to just to straight ground me when I know I'm going into just dealing with the frustrations of everything, and I think that's my jam. But yeah, so I listen to all of it. Old school rap, yeah, I mean neo soul, like everything. So in my office, so I'm like, I have YouTube up and I just start clicking and just have a little playlist rolling. So yeah.
I have to come visit the office.
You gotta come hang out for real.
Got very similar music taste. I love to hear it all. Okay. So you did mention you are a husband, you are a father. What is your absolute favorite thing to do with the fam?
Everything. So I have 5 boys. Y'all know that. 5 boys, 18 to 8. So everything, I think, I love my guys, and they just, they're my everything. And so whatever they want to do, I like to do. So my little guy, he wants to wrestle and do flips. So that's what we do. My 14-year-old, 13-year-old likes to go and drive go-karts. So we go karting. And we usually when we go with the whole family. So we try to get it in and just have fun. And my 14-year-old is a hooper. So I follow that joker everywhere. Yes. So I'll follow him everywhere. So we go on to tournaments and all kind of crazy stuff. He's usually the one you see with me at the games, Jackson. So yeah, that. And then my 16-year-old is a music, like that dude is phenomenal. And then he's an artist too. So he paints a lot. So a lot of stuff back here. Yeah, but this is my oldest one. He did that one. So my oldest one is an artist too. But he's all over the place. He plays lacrosse and water polo, and so I think just being able to have a cool schedule, just to know that I can be there is cool. But honestly the funnest thing that I love to do with my boys is taking them to school, because I have that flexibility. So we've been in the car cutting up. So it's a blast. It's a blast. And then my wife, man, she's my ace. That's my best friend. Like I just drive her around. That's what I tell people, because people know me because of my wife. So I'm like, I'm just her driver. That's all I am. But that's my buddy. We've been married for 21 years. And so yeah, so it's been cool. So I just listen to whatever she tells me to do. When she tells me it's all good.
Yeah, I love that, especially because it's like the simplest things. Like it doesn't always have to be something super like extraordinary.
Yeah.
Spending time with people, spending time with your family can just mean so much.
Yeah, that's huge. She taught me that too, because I used to always like, I got to do something big. And she's like, no, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't. So little things mean a lot.
Yes.
So true.
Definitely. Okay, so we have come to the end of our Bruin Table Talk.
I know.
London, thank you so much for joining us.
No, thanks.
So much in our program. We appreciate everything that you do and everything that you stand for.
Yeah, just to add on to that, thank you so much. Your support means the world, either that being showing up to the games or being on our Bruin Table Talk here. And you're just such a great role model for us, but for also all the Black men and all the Black boys who are growing up and can look at somebody and be like, yep, that's who I want to be like. That's a great example of it. And like always, go Bruins!